board will now reconvene into open session. Before starting our meeting tonight, I'd like to say a few words. I ask for all cell phones to be off, and if I can have your attention. As most of you know, we lost one of our young people last Friday night. Shane was a sophomore at Drake High School, and his loss has been felt deeply throughout our entire school community. On behalf of the board and the district, we send our most sincere condolences to his family and friends. Before we begin, I ask that we take a moment of silence to reflect on how we can support each other during experiences of loss such as this, and how we can move forward and personally assist the young people in our lives. Thank you. So we'll now begin the meeting. There are no reportable action items that were taken in closed session. The grad waivers are part of the consent agenda. So now it's time to ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. That passed. Now I'm going to ask for a volunteer to read the board norms.
And I'm going to suggest a student trustee read the board norms.
Oh, good idea. It's been a while since you guys did.
Don't all volunteer at once.
I can read them. I don't know if I will read again. Well, I did. The board will come prepared and be fully present and engaged, deliberate effectively and listen openly without interrupting, work collaboratively and to strive for consensus, maintain perspective with a sense of humor, not repeat each other or ourselves, not have side conversations, give full attention to the proceedings, no cell phone use, focus on the best interests for all students, and commit to no surprises.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And then at the end of the meeting, you can do a review. So, very good. I'll first ask for public comment on the consent agenda. And if there's no public comment, then my next question will be to the fellow board members if there's any item on the consent agenda you'd like removed. No public comment? Okay. Okay, in that case, can I ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So now's the time on our agenda that we have public comment for items not on the agenda. Are there any public comments on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to student trustee reports. And you can start in any order, whatever, whoever would like to go first.
I can start. This isn't working.
Is that not working?
So as you all know, Drake lost a student last Friday. So that's definitely affected the atmosphere of the school. And of course, everyone at Drake, our thoughts go out to the family and all of Shane's friends at this time. And I would just like to talk about what resources were for people on Monday. So the administration decided to send an email out to parents so that they could make a decision about telling their kids if their kids didn't already know. But if their parents decide not to, teachers told people second period on Monday so that it was certain that people weren't alone when they found out and that they could immediately get help if they needed it. And then our wellness, which is usually closed on Mondays, was open all day for people if they wanted to talk, and also our counseling center and all of our on-site therapists were available. And the teachers read out a statement saying what had happened, and also telling kids not to spread rumors and to be respectful. And I really think that that was adhered to. And people definitely, they've been respectful about the situation. And people have been using the resources, the counseling resources, but it's definitely still on campus. It's being felt. I had other things to report, but I think I'm going to hold off until next time.
So at TAM yesterday we were on lockdown for close to 2 hours. I don't know the exact time, but it was just under, to my understanding. But everything turned out okay. Everyone was good. Teachers seemed to follow protocol. Everyone was safe. Everyone, from what I heard and from what administration has been saying, everyone followed procedure. Everyone was inside or got off campus. No, nothing ended up happening, so we were okay. I haven't really heard of any students feeling unsafe. There were definitely some flaws in the system that became apparent kind of through this, so I think it was a really good wake-up call to everyone. Some classrooms say didn't have buckets or subs weren't 100% sure on what to do, but overall I think it was just kind of a good learning experience and everyone's okay. We have our elective fair tomorrow. We Tammy did this a year or two ago, and that rather than having individual, each class being informational meeting this day versus this day, they just do it all at once. Tutorial. The gym is filled with current teachers and students. It's mainly students actually. They've kind of taken charge. So I'll be working the TAM News booth tomorrow, and Marine Bio always has fun things. Kids are handing out candy, trying to get you to sign up for their class. Most of the time it is students kind of presenting on homework level, interest level, kind of so younger kids can ask the older kids. Our first student senate meeting is also going on tomorrow, so hopefully talking about some just of the issues on campus. I know the administration wants them to start talking about the scavenger hunt early on, so that it doesn't become that they're trying to shut it down early, and find ways to kind of compromise with students and make sure they get a hold of that. And I just know is one issue that they want to start working on this semester. TAM News is going to collaborate with MLK and Willow Creek, trying to, with the 8th graders, they come about 4 or 5 times to the TAM newsroom and they work on their own magazine, learning the skills of journalism. So hopefully when they're a freshman or sophomore, they come back and join the program. It's a way that TAM News is trying to increase diversity and increase kind of access to the class.
How did the kids get there, by the way?
Bus, I believe.
Yeah.
It's like a field trip. They come at noon, and TAM News works with the TAM High Foundation with the funding, and we get pizza. So all the kids in that 3rd period eat lunch with the kids, and you're partnered up. I don't know how many kids are in this 8th grade class, but it's normally 1 or 2 TAM News per student. They partner up. You have kind of your partner, you work with them throughout. You eat lunch, and we get soda and snacks and junk food and hang out with them, and then they pick someone that they want to interview. It's normally a current TAM student that they knew when they were in middle school, and they write about 1 paragraph on them, and they work on editing, and then we show them how we use InDesign. We take their photo and we print a little 8-page magazine that we then go back and distribute at their school. So kind of trying to get them to feel included in the program, and we actually use all the leftover money, and there's a big box of snacks hidden in the TAM newsroom that's only for students who participate in the program, which I think is a fun little touch. So even if you don't join the program later on, you can still pop in at any time and you get access to the snack drawer, which even I as an underachiever are not allowed to touch the snack drawer because I was on the program. So, and our Poetry Out Loud finals are also held tomorrow at TAM. Kids are kind of excited for this, especially Miss Katie, the teacher who runs it, because last year the girl from TAM went to win state and competed at nationals in Washington, D.C. for Poetry Out Loud. So, yeah. This isn't working. I don't know why I'm passing it.
Lauren, thank you.
So Redwood's ASB president, Josh Chan, presented the check to Family House, which we did our fundraiser for. So it was a lot more money than we've raised in past years, partly because he did the whole sort of campaign where he shaved his head after. So that was pretty successful, and he's already thinking of new ways to do something different for the next fundraiser. So the leadership class has the big fake check, so they presented it to the Family House representative. It was pretty cool. And then they came in and sort of talked about how grateful they were for the support. So that was really nice to hear. Redwood had its winter formal on Friday, which was the first time, at least in recent history, that Redwood has had a winter formal. And there was actually much better attendance than was expected. There was sort of a complicated process following the cancellation of homecoming with tickets and refunds. And it was really difficult for the budget secretary to refund students, so we were really trying not to have that happen. But obviously if a student wanted a refund, they could get that, but it was just pretty complicated. But a lot of underclassmen did turn out to the dance. Not a lot of upperclassmen, which is also just pretty typical of homecoming. But yeah, it was pretty successful, and there were a lot of really cool decorations, like wintry themed, which people were excited about. And there was a really cool photo booth, so kids were pretty excited about that. And I think people that didn't go were actually pretty bummed. So leadership they sort of did an overview recap of it this morning. They're thinking of ways to maybe continue that for next year, or just use the sort of suggestions to improve homecoming, just because we don't know if we'll have the budget for 3 dances. We have club day tomorrow at lunch, which is always pretty successful. Like the elective fair at TAM, it's sort of kids like handing out candy, presenting on their club. And a lot of kids go around and sign up, so that's always really successful. A new thing leadership is considering for the week of February 10th is something called Everybody Loves Everybody Week. And it's been done in other schools, not totally sure where. This one girl heard of it and wanted to incorporate it, but it wouldn't take a lot of funds. It's like beads and pins that we would get. And I think there's sort of a setup for how you do it, but every day it's sort of a different theme. So it's like leadership will hand out red beads on Monday morning. And the sort of activity all day is you give a bead to someone who makes you feel happy, or someone you're proud of. So it's sort of just a way to try and increase community around the school and sort of just support other peers. So looking into that.
Thank you. Very good. Good. Appreciate everything that you shared. So now we move on to trustee considerations. And first up is Corbett. Discuss and take action on Resolution 19-9 to authorize and establish Fund 01.
Great. Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to present to the board Resolution 19-9. As you mentioned, I'm sure that you've been anticipating this for quite some time, so I'll pause for the goosebumps to calm down a little bit. I'm not going to read the resolution to you, but I want to just summarize the concept of it. This is purely an accounting change. This is no real financial impact. For some time, the California State Accounting Manual has suggested a shift from fund numbering to the fund alignment that we're proposing tonight. We've been outdated. I can't speak for my predecessors of why they didn't make this change, but there's some one-time effort on our staff to make this transition that will have long-term benefits. Is to ensure us complying with the best practices that the state and our county recommend. Furthermore, in the future, the state and federal government are signaling some changes that, if they follow through on that, might provide some complications for us should we not make this change. We've got newer staff that are eager to make this change before they get to invest in the old way of doing things, and we have some support and backup to do that. So we're going to take the challenge of doing that now. What this means is if the board should authorize the opening of Fund 01, the county office would open that officially. It's a numeric opening. During the budget development process we reviewed today in Cabinet, we'd be beginning opening Fund 01 and budgeting towards that. We cannot close the old general funds 03 and 06 until we close the books this summer and bring forward the unaudited actuals for the board to approve. So it's an opening, the resolution in front of you opens general fund 01, and then also authorizes the closure of general funds 03, which is unrestricted, and 06, unrestricted, pending the approval of the unaudited actuals and the audit report. So that's the summary of the resolution in front of you. I'm glad to answer any other questions if you have any more, but this is simply to align with best practice across the state.
Any questions? Do we need to discuss anything?
So July 1st is when everything essentially switches from the 2 to 1.
That's exactly right. The new fiscal year starts July 1st. We'll be adopting a budget in the new system, should the board approve it tonight. And then we need a couple months to close the books from the old system, 03 and 06. Exactly. Any questions, Lauren?
Would you like to have a preferential vote on this one? It's such an important one. Yeah. Okay. You can. Okay. Can I please ask for a motion to pass resolution number 19-9?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mary. I believe this is a roll call vote.
Ms. Lewica? Aye. Ms. Ronick?
Aye.
Mr. Oppenheim?
Aye.
Mr. Saavedra?
Aye.
And Ms. Harlander?
Aye. Well, thank you. That passed.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I've got two different versions here. So next up is student trustee roles and responsibility, approximately 6:45. We're ahead of time. So we decided to put this on the agenda, and it was in part because of we thought it'd be a good time just to talk as a full board and with you to have a check-in. At the last meeting, I noticed it, but it was very noticeable. It's been noticeable that just about every meeting at 7:30, you all get up in unison, and don't look surprised. You all get up in unison and leave the meeting. And so I didn't know if that was something you all decided, and are the meetings too late? So we wanted to talk about that. And then I know, and I do appreciate, I'm not sure why tonight you didn't bring your laptops. I mean, it's fine at the beginning when you're having to report out, but if you wanted to talk more about that. We're just trying to make the board meetings more cohesive, and thought we could, and I haven't even talked to the other board members about this, but just have a discussion of things that you think you would like to see different, or are there things about being the role of student trustee that's not workable, but then we can also share with you what we look towards, and I pulled out the bylaws, the role of student trustees and the importance of the student voice. So my first question was the 7:30. What brought that on? Because it's been...
7:30, I know for me, I always feel awkward when I leave alone, so sometimes we'll just kind of like, oh, you're leaving, like, I'll leave with you, so we don't, like, when there's all 5 of us, the chairs are very loud, trying to squeeze out, so I just always feel awkward if I leave by myself. So 7:30, I think that's supposed to be random. I know at the last meeting, I was really sick, and I just wanted to...
That's okay. It's not. It's been since September, so I'm just wondering. So there was no. Is it consistently because is that too late for you all with homework, or what? Because it's new. It's new. I've been on the board for 4 years, and so I just want to understand if that's not workable. Like the board meetings used to start at 7. So then we moved it to 6, and in part because we were concerned about the student trustees that were staying until 10 o'clock at night. So it's really a time to discuss, because with the Brown Act, we can't discuss, individually. You look like you have a thought.
No,
Yeah.
I hadn't, it was definitely not intentional, and I don't think I realized that it was at 7:30. It was just balancing homework, and then I agree with Kara that because the chairs are very loud, that leaving at the same time felt less disruptful. But I don't think I planned for it to be 7:30 every night. I definitely like to stay later. I think also, I know I will also look at the agenda and definitely stay for things that I think are very important to have student voice for. But then sometimes if I do have a lot of homework I have to do, and there is something that I don't think is as pertinent, then I would go home. But it's also, this year I've noticed board meetings have been, the agenda has been shorter, so I don't know if I was just wrong that those items actually took a lot longer and the board meetings are still going to 9, but it felt like they were going later, so still percentage of board, staying during the percentage of board meetings has been the same, but that could have been just a mistake on my part.
Can I ask a
Yeah,
question?
absolutely. It's
So-
for the whole board to
Yeah,
discuss.
so I'm confused. So I got your feedback on not leaving in unison, but I'm wondering why you're leaving early at all. That's not an agreement that the board came to, and I feel that you are valuable voices, and we've heard some questions about things on the agenda that have been discussed, and then student board members have acted as if they didn't know what it was about. And I view this role as you get some benefit from it, right? And you put it on your college applications, you put it on your resumes. And so, and I understand the homework issue, but the board commitments ahead of time. So I'm wondering what lies behind the assumption that you would leave early anyway, absent a special, right? I mean, if you're sick, right? Or something like that. But why it's a regular assumption that you would leave a board meeting early when they generally go from 6 to, 9 at the latest. We've had a couple that have gone longer than that. So and we didn't have student trustees in Kentfield, so I just wondered where that assumption came from when you're signing up for the role, when you're volunteering for the role, because we don't get to leave early. We don't get to work on other things. So I'm just wondering.
I think for the last 3 years, I've been a student trustee. At the trustee orientations, I thought it was made clear that, that student trustees also have to balance being students. And I might be wrong, but I remember being told at every orientation that we're allowed to do homework during meetings, and if we
Allowed
need
to do homework during the meetings? Wait, what did you say?
Yeah, isn't
I don't know about the
Who
homework.
told, what? Oh,
She's correct, though. We have told them to leave when they had to leave.
she just said to do homework during the
That, I
meetings.
don't know about that.
okay, then maybe that's not.
Yeah.
Oh, so anyway, I didn't know
thought
we were, I didn't
but
know
then
we were,
also
I'm sorry, I didn't know we were even talking about that. I thought we were
Talking about leaving early. But yeah, no, I have to admit, to leave early, I know I've said if there's ever a time that you have too much on your plate, definitely leave early. But I just have noticed, and others have noticed, that it seems to be every night. So it was really more and when something happens all the time, consistently, it's time to check in and say what is in the system is not working. And Maddie, there's no way anyone ever said you could do homework during the meeting. So I'm sorry, you misunderstood. Yeah, no, that would go against our board. Yeah, board policy. Yeah. So and I didn't realize you were doing that. So so that's a problem. I mean, if you're doing homework during meetings, that's a problem.
Well, I guess just for me to continue addressing Cynthia's question, not to call out my principal in any way, but when we meet before the meetings, we always go over the agenda. We talk about what my report will be, and then we go over the agenda. And he's like, yeah, you can leave after this part. Like, we look through it.
Mm-hmm.
He tells me this would be a valuable thing for you to share your opinion on. You should definitely listen to this, report back at ASB. But then there are definitely items where he says, yeah, after this part, you can.
Yeah, no, this is what's helpful.
That's why we wanted to have this conversation, because I knew there was more to this. And like Maddie, you've been on the board for a long time. So, that's why we're having this conversation. So moving forward, and I have to say, I think our meetings generally are over by 8:30. Is that too late? Is that something you think is are you able to commit to doing this unless you're having finals or something going on? Is it too hard to stay from 6 to 8:30 or?
I think coming into the semester it'll be a lot easier. I played a sport in the fall, plus college applications, plus lots of homework made it hard to get it done, because I just with that, but I think that the semester, with all of us being done with college applications and such, I think it'll be a lot easier. I know I'm going to try and stay the whole time. I just have a lot less on my plate, so even if I felt like when I was here, I was just like, I need to go home and do this and this and this, that I felt like I wasn't even present, that it is my intention to stay longer. I think that I just would be peer pressure someone sitting actually with them. Is honestly probably what was going on in my head, but I know last semester I was very overwhelmed and I couldn't feel myself being present, so I was like, I might as well, I don't know, what I've learned is oh, I'm not present, I'm stressing myself out, I should go home.
If you feel that way, then it's not working. And I guess that's part of what I want to make sure, because if it's that we talk about student stress a lot and students being overbooked, and I'm looking at this a perspective, and Maddie, you remember those days where I mean, we at 10 o'clock, we'd say to the student trustee, you really need to go. Or, remember Jacob, and they were all seniors. So we were always concerned about, and we're all concerned about how much is on your plate. And if you have too much on your plate, we don't want you to feel like you have to keep doing this role. I mean, trustees that are, public, that are elected, student trustees, people if they're too stressed or they're not able to fulfill the commitment and they've got, it's not worth it. So part of this is if it's not workable, I really want you to feel free to tell us because, your welfare is really important, and we also need student trustees. So, definitely don't feel like you have to continue with the commitment if it's not workable for you.
And let me just add, I want to make sure that you three don't feel like you're in the hot seats with this conversation. This is a dialogue.
Yeah, we're trying
because
to.
As we're going forward, and I haven't yet shared with all of you, but we had dinner last week and we talked about some of this stuff. But as we go forward, all of you are graduating, so we'll have new trustees representing each of the high schools. What does work? What is reasonable for us to ask?
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
To require, and what is it, what is reasonable for you guys to expect to give as well? It is an exchange, as Cynthia said, there is some benefit for sure that you get out of it, but along with that goes some expectations and requirements, right, to follow some board norms. So again, I want to make sure you understand you're not in the hot seat and that it's a dialogue, and going forward with the remaining few months that we have with you, but also with your replacements, what's reasonable? I mean, we're asking for 2.5 hours every other week. And is that not reasonable that you're here fully engaged, participating, and taking the information back?
I think that's reasonable to require us to stay for the meetings. I think, just at least for me, there was sort of a disconnect between what was expected of me, just between talking with my principal and so I think, that sort of chain of command may be a little disconnected.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely reasonable. That wasn't really the issue for me. I mean, definitely there's sort of the off night where I'll have a ton of homework, and especially like finals week or something like that. But I think generally, if that's expected of us and we know that, then I think that's completely reasonable.
I have an idea, and I'm just throwing this out. And I think about you all having been seniors now, but the senior fall semester, especially if you're playing a sport, especially if you're involved in another club or some sort of activity, not to mention all the applications, et cetera, et cetera. What if we've got, I know in the Kentfield School District, the principals are required to give an update at the board meetings. What if, especially in the fall, we require or ask that some of our principals, maybe not all 5 of them, maybe we rotate and have those principals come and exchange, instead of the student trustees, those particular dates, just to give them a night off, if you will?
I don't agree with that. Because it is a role that they're signing up for. I thought you were going to say we don't have seniors on the school board because of the senior fall. And that, I think, would be a more, if we were looking for a way to help someone who has too much on their plate, that I think would be a more realistic role, right? And so then it's open to sophomores and juniors. But again, because there is a very large benefit that goes to you with serving in this role. And we take the role seriously as trustees, and I think you have taken the role seriously, right? And the dialogue is exactly right that Karen was talking about, because we assume one thing, right, because we've got the policies and the bylaws, but if you are getting different directions from different people or have from prior board members, right, this is here to straighten it up, right, and I imagine straighten it up with the principals as well, and so that we're on the same page as expectations. because I don't think the student's role is just to update us. I think it's to participate in the discussion, to be aware of what's being discussed, to take it back to the sites. And so I don't think that would be served by the principals showing up, but that's my.
So what more, you had another part to your question that I thought was a good one. What more can, it's an exchange, so is there anything that you're not getting out of these meetings? I know, for instance, an example, some of us like to get hard copies of some of the material. Maybe you want more preferential votes.
A big one, because
Yeah.
something I really like to do during meetings is follow along during presentations
Yeah.
on my laptop and look at slides that have been passed by. So that would actually be.
Okay, that's good to know. No, Mary and I were talking today before the meeting because I've stopped. I used to bring my laptop for that reason, and then I was always pushing it around, and so I don't do that anymore. So sometimes I'll have things printed. So that's something. So we could routinely do it, or you could let Mary know before the meeting, like maybe if possible, well, definitely the morning of the meeting, of what you'd like printed, and she can do that for you. So that's something. That'll be good.
Yeah, I would say the same. I would always be having the presentations up. I think also, not all the time, but on the off occasion, sometimes, like what we just voted on, I'm not 100% sure what that was. So sometimes I'm doing some Googling on the side, being like, what is this that I'm supposed to be talking about? Because I missed my chance to ask the acronym. That sometimes I just feel like it seems like something that's automatically going to pass. So me not understanding it is kind of okay because the change in the budget and audience.
I wondered if
So,
you
yeah.
wanted the hard copy.
The hard copy, no, I just think
Okay.
sometimes a little bit more context than possibly might be more.
Oh, I see what you're
Because
asking.
I would be then Googling it or trying to look on the presentation and like, where does it say in subscript what exactly we're talking about?
Okay.
Because like when we were at the JLAC thing, for example, they kept saying the acronyms because sometimes they just get slipped, and it's something that seems very easy once you know what it is, but if you don't know what it is, you lose the context of the entire
Yeah,
discussion.
I understand.
Yeah, they would always. That was a thing of everyone reminding each other at JLAC too. Explain what acronyms mean.
Yeah.
We really should have an educational acronym
It's
chart.
a little.
No, I really.
We have an acronym for it.
Yeah, they start, right?
Maybe wallpaper.
They just start talking in acronyms.
Electronic screen.
Well, it's even like JLAC. What does JLAC stand for? I mean, it's just everything. I always have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the important thing to take away is that we really value your voice, right? And for me, student voice is super important. This is, why we're here, why we're all here in the district meeting, not here tonight. But, and so I think it's important, and I totally appreciate the feedback of providing more context and wanting you all to feel comfortable to stop us and say, I'm just not following you, can you help? Because it's a really good reminder to us that we get really close to it. And, as we say, we start talking acronyms and we're going a million miles an hour. And if you don't understand, the chances are a lot of people who are watching our videos don't understand it either. So it's really helpful for us, and you're not here just to be helpful, but to have student voice is really important.
Anything else? Anything else, Karen, or?
I think so.
We did briefly talk about how their replacements come to be.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess to understand, if we want to share how that's going on at your school sites, what is being done to find your potential replacement for the fall of 2020.
We're all graduating.
No, I know, but what is being done
Yeah,
at
do
their
people
school
apply?
sites?
What is the process?
The three big schools were all elected.
Okay.
So at least at TAM, I'm trying to, it's kind of an unknown role at TAM. People don't really know what it is. And then you can run for site council or you can run for the school board. There's one site council rep per grade. And everyone's like, school board, that's at Redwood. That's a hike. So it's really not, but rush hour going that way. So trying to find someone that fits. I've also been trying to look out for someone, being in TAM News or some other extracurriculars really help me understand what's going on. Because if there's an interesting meeting, I'll find myself often going back to my journalism teacher being like, please help me talk through this so I understand what I was listening to. Versus like the leadership teachers, I think are, like they're, depending on what it is, a lot of the budgetary stuff and like legality stuff I find I just process better talking to kids in there, so I'm trying to find someone who possibly crosses over or has more interests in kind of the deeper hidden stuff in the district, because I think while school board is positioned in leadership, I sometimes don't think that leadership kids are as, it's like the right natural fit, so I'm trying to find, like, I mean, I can't pick the next person, but being like, hey, you seem to be interested in this stuff, you should look into this role.
Is a general thing put out in a newsletter about encouraging, because one of the risks of you identify, even though you're not picking them, but like, oh, I think that person's good or that person's good, or is it maybe doesn't cast the net as widely as we would like.
I mean, yeah, I've told every underclassman and leader that I've in both extracurriculars about it. We send our Hawk talks about it. There's posters. I mean,
I just don't know.
All kinds of all forums that we use to publicize elected positions are there. It's just kind of one that it's not student body president, student body treasurer, so it's not like doesn't ring a bell as much. So I've been trying. I don't know.
Yeah, you have to do extra work.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Because I ended up in this position because nobody ran for it, and Mr. Farr was like, can you please do this? Like, we need someone to do this. And then last year I ran against one other girl who, that was like the first time they said in a while that there have actually been 2 people running for the position. So it's, yeah.
So limiting to sophomores and juniors probably doesn't make so much sense if there's not even enough candidates, or not even candidates at all.
I would also say, just on that point, my driving, yes. Also, my predecessor thought this, and I agree with him, that it's a pretty steep learning curve being on the board, so it takes you about half a year at least to figure everything out and understand what everything's talking about, so it's actually more helpful to have people be on it for multiple years. Is also.
One thing that I would like to suggest, it's not necessarily on the application process, but I know we're prohibited by Brown Act, but we actually aren't prohibited by Brown Act in getting together, right? We can't discuss board business, but like I feel like I don't really know you guys, you gals, you women, would you think it's helpful? I mean, I know you have a trustee liaison, but would you find it helpful to have a gathering where you get to know the board, the elected? Will all of us get to know one another, or is that just kind of another requirement on your plate and the trustee liaison's fine?
I feel like for me personally, I've never felt like the board, coming to the board has been like a requirement. I just sometimes, I don't know, that I think it'd be interesting. I know some of the previous board members I've gotten to know better than others, so I think anytime you know more about a person, it helps you understand the whole thought process. I know all 3 of us talking the other night, or I guess you weren't there, but talking like all 5 of us are very different students. Well, maybe we come off very similar because we all ended up in this leadership role. So I think I would be very interested in doing that. It's a long way of saying that.
Well, I was saying like a social at the beginning of the, right, where it's the student trustee. I'm not saying each board member goes out with each, right? So it's just a social, it's what you would used to call barbecue, right? But something where it's not about board business, but it's getting to know, right? Because I feel that's an element that's.
I would, if we were to do that, like a very comprehensive rundown of the Brown Act, just to be very clear.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly.
We could always post it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've done,
We can always post it, and then it's very, you don't have to worry so much, so. And so, Lauren, how are student trustees chosen at Redwood? Is it the same thing you said there?
School-wide election. And sort of same with TAM. People have been running unopposed for like the last 5 years.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I mean, it's advertised the same as any other ASB position. They run with the associated student body positions, and then the class officers run separately. But it's sort of just a less flashy title, I guess, than like president. So I guess kids don't really know about it. But I have been trying to get the word out because I found out about it through leadership because they present out at ASB. But I've been talking to the principal too about trying to reach different groups, trying to get a different voice.
Should we call you student trustee presidents, maybe?
I can't move it within the school day. Well, no, I think the evening commitment is.
No, it's right.
something that's
There's always
different
so
from
many things,
the
yeah.
school.
I think
leadership position.
kids also hear board meetings
Yeah, I
every other
understand.
Tuesday night,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
just not as appealing.
Yeah, no, I can understand that, really.
Yeah, I know, crazy. But yeah, so I think that's definitely part of it. That's sort of unavoidable, but I guess it just sort of seeks out the right person for it.
Mhm. No, it's helpful.
But yeah.
Okay.
Well, good. Yeah, I remember when Noah really worked to widen that. He changed the way that Drake elected, or he got it. It used to be in the leadership class, I think, or it was confined to the leadership, and he opened it up.
Ed Drake definitely the past 4 years working really hard about getting more people running for elections and
Yeah.
making them a bigger deal, because they definitely, when I started, were not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything we could be doing to help broadcast that message, explain the value of trustees to the functioning of the school board, to explain what the roles and responsibilities would be, to whether it's coming out and speaking to a leadership class or prior to people deciding if they want to submit for?
As like we've been facing this recently, I've been thinking a lot about this at Drake, is it's actually really hard to get information out to students because there's just like you can do an email but students don't check their emails, you can do crew announcements but students don't pay attention during crew announcements. So that is just information in general is hard to get out to all students, and yeah, you can like give presentations at interested bodies, but then you're only telling those students. So
Are you suggesting it's hard to communicate with teenagers? Yeah, it is.
Does it go out in your school newspapers?
I don't believe there's like an advertisement.
Because I feel like that's one place that reaches a lot of kids.
I'd also add, at least for Redwood.
more now, I think.
Fair enough.
I'd say for Redwood TV is a good way to get out announcements. Because kids are sort of confined in a room and forced to watch it.
I think the point is, my perspective is, going back to what Cynthia said, the trustees bring valuable information to the board. I mean, we either are parents who had kids in the school district or have kids in the school district and won't have them in a year or so. And that connectivity is, a large portion of it comes through you guys. And so trying to figure out how to impart upon the school or the sites the value of those candidates, and then, related is, in our opinion, the value for that person that is, whether you're president of the school or treasurer, vice president, or a student trustee. In my opinion, I think it's very valuable, and I'm wondering if there's anything we can do to help that effort, because I don't think it's great that we would only have one person running. I think there's a lot of value for the student, there's a lot of value for the school, and there's a lot of value for us that there's a broader base of people that are coming here. I'm wondering what we might be able to do to help facilitate that outreach.
If you were to come and say talk to leadership or interested bodies, I think it would definitely inspire more leadership kids. I also think just people don't know what the board is. I will say I feel like Dr. Tovier, people know who you are and people haven't known who the superintendents were before. And we were talking about that the other day, like, wow, people, if you asked who your superintendent was, they will actually know what to say, and that's very impressive, because I would say freshman year, no one could have named that. It would have been like, oh, like, what's a superintendent? So I think then if you get the next step being like, oh, what's a school board? It might be like, oh, I should run for the school board, because they will actually know what it is. But I think this would be the same thing, that you're getting the same interested bodies. You might not be getting a more diverse group of students, or the kid who have never got that one pamphlet, who never found leadership or any kind of extracurricular, but you would still maybe have 2 kids running. So it solved part of the problem, but I don't think you're gonna, it's gonna help partially, but it's not like you'll be able to catch the eye of every student, but it'd be helpful. And I think it'll also just create communication, because then kids would then be like, oh, I can't run, but I know Joe ran, and he's on the school board now, so I'm gonna go tell Joe to tell this at the school board meeting. Because like, I think just the more kids who know about it, even if they don't run, will still, or they like, oh, I saw that this thing's on the agenda and I'm interested in this, like their athletic trainer is being discussed. I like my athletic trainer, I'm gonna go to the meeting. That I would just kind of, even if kids just know more, would be helpful. Sorry, that was a long.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're saying a little outreach prior to each school voting for those trustees would be valuable.
And when do they do that?
Yeah,
by the
when
way?
would that be?
Yeah,
Late April, early May.
Yeah.
We like kind of try and squeeze it before AP testing, that kind of laps over AP testing, kind of laps over state testing, but like doesn't really, because it's not supposed to, but it does. Yeah. I can get those.
Okay.
We will let you know.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
great. That's very helpful. Thanks.
So you volunteer?
Yeah, for sure. I'd volunteer to do that, because I think it's important for us. It's important for them, and if there's a way that we can explain things and see if we can generate more interest, for sure. Yeah, I think we should do that. I'd be happy to do that.
Very good. Anything else before we move on? I think in summary, at our end, we're going to provide hard copies of the meeting material, but we'll do that upon request. So if you don't mind just letting Mary know. Does that work for you, Mary, if they call you the morning of? Okay. And then also, as collectively, we're going to try and think in terms of agenda items, providing some context. And that will help. That actually helps everybody. So I really appreciate that idea. And I really will appreciate having an acronym list somewhere. So I think that's a really good idea. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, probably. Yeah, it'd be a mural. And then the other idea also had to do with kind of having a social gathering, and I think that would be fun. It's unfortunately we're not doing it earlier, but we'll do that maybe when the weather. Well, no, you said barbecue, so I immediately thought we had to do a barbecue. I know we can do anything. So I said we don't have to wait for the weather to clear. We could do it inside. And then the last thing is that we'll work with you on outreach before the next election. So, and definitely always give a shout out if you want to have a preferential vote. That's something that just doesn't always occur to me. So clearly. And I'm going to try and improve on that. So,
yeah, and if you guys could come back and tell us when and where you think delivering that message personally would be most effective, then we can react to that, please.
Yeah, it sounded like Tara, you were also going to do that.
Yeah, for sure. It would be fun to sing and dance.
And I'd like to go to TAM. I'm kind of homesick from visiting TAM, but anyway.
Last year, Ms. Harlander and Ms. Owens and Ms. Topier all came to the TAM News classroom, and I think we were supposed to interrogate them, and they interrogated us more than we interrogated them. But I think interrogated being like interviewed with just like excitement, just like, oh, question. And it was like fun. We talked a lot about, I don't remember, like a lot of random phone questions, but I think everyone left that being like, oh, like the random people in the emails like actually exist and I can ask them questions. So I think that was just anytime people see faces, it made, I don't know, we had fun. We felt like little test subjects.
Did they bring food to the TAM News gathering? I don't know. That's the right of entry into the bark room for sure, is food.
We did not. Nope, I'm afraid not. Well, thank you. Very, very helpful. I think this was very helpful. Thank you so much. So now we'll move on to something that doesn't sound exciting or interesting, but actually it is. And this is really important. I'm glad that you're here because we'll be handing it over to Tara Topier to lead the discussion of the mission and vision statement development.
So you should have in front of you
And do the student trustees have it?
Yeah, they do. So you have notes from the mission and vision workshop, which y'all weren't at. But just to go over the process, what the decision-making process, we had mindset, problem definition, solution criteria, and values. We were sort of creating some parameters around how we would know when we had developed an effective mission. And those were the things that the board came up with. So as you can see, the mindset is, things we were going to keep in mind. The why are we revising it now, right? What problem are we trying to solve, so to speak? And then the solution criteria, what do we want the mission to sort of look like? And then the values embedded. And then down at the bottom, you have the draft mission statement that the board came up with on January 7th. And so then the next steps were to review the grad profile, which is here, the kind of rainbow, but not in the right order, I think, rainbow. So review it and edit it for alignment. So what we were looking for is, if you look at the mission statement and the values, where do we see them reflected in the grad profile? And then we were going to come back and discuss it. And I've also provided one other document that I meant to provide on the 7th, and I didn't, but that is the equity, vision, and non-negotiables. This is something that our administrative team came up with 2 years ago, 2 springs ago, and this was really a decision-making tool for us. We built this to say, so if we had the vision up above, and then the statements that we believe in light of what we believe, what we'll do. And so what we really did is lean on these when we need to make a big decision. So when we're talking about, reductions or where to put resources, we really say, well, how does that fit in with our equity, vision, and non-negotiables? Are we keeping that equity lens in the forefront? So I wanted to provide that to the board as well, because I know that one of the board's criteria was to keep equity in mind.
So this is not part of the vision statement?
This was just the admin team developed, and the admin team uses it as a decision-making tool.
So how would you like to start?
So I think the place to start, the next steps were to look at the grad profile and look at areas of alignment or not, or misalignment. And I think we were thinking, the feedback we got at LCAP, and Dan and Karen can chime in, was that this was a little overwhelming for people. Particularly parents were like, that's so much stuff. So I think we were looking, as I said, can we look at this for brevity and clarity and alignment to the draft statement? And then also, is that draft statement still what the board wants to move forward with?
So, and wherever this is on the website, do you have both the statement and this? Or is this something that we're just using to build the statement?
No, this was some.
Public document?
This wasn't. Not yet.
It will be?
It will be.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. It's not just something we're building for us to make the statement?
No, good question, thank you. No, this will be a public document, and the idea would be that, the board's mission is this, and sort of this is how, like this is, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, these are the sort of criteria that students will get to fulfill that mission.
Have you already revised this from the feedback?
I have
There
not
was the bottom
revised this,
two.
so
Okay,
right now
I
would be
wondered.
feedback for
Okay.
revisions to this.
Okay. Because I know okay.
And people I think we were getting towards the end of the meeting, and people wanted some time to sort of go home and look at it and be a little more thoughtful. And the student trustees are probably just seeing this for the first time. So, like, for me, I can share that I found some of the criteria within each of the columns a little too specific. Like I think assume shared responsibility for collective work and value individual contributions. It seems a little specific for me.
Very, very specific, yet are very the same at the same time. But I think if you broadened the wording a little bit, it would encompass all of them.
Yes, exactly. Brevity, exactly.
I take out bottom two and one. I would take out, I would take out number 2 on 2. I'd probably put identify at the top. I mean, if we're sticking with these categories, right?
Can I ask what you mean by authentic problems? On number 3? Identify,
On number.
define, and solve. Under item
yeah.
2.
I think my understanding from authentic there is real world
Okay.
problems, not manufactured in a classroom, but, you know. Right. You know, based, and usually based in your context.
Okay. Thank you. It just jumped out
Yeah.
at me.
Well, it's a little bit buzzwordy these days.
Yep.
It's there again in 4 under communication in the second one, the authentic products. It's kind of unclear wording. I also don't know in the cultural competence one, I don't know how you would word it correctly, but I feel like in the SOAR meetings that I went to and kind of in conversations, there's a lot of talk of like admitting that you don't understand something and allowing yourself to be taught. But like, I don't know if there's a way you could put that in there, but I feel like a lot of what I've learned in school and like things that I've been pushed in leadership, SOAR, TAMBs, etc., has been like identifying in your, I don't know how you word this, I don't quote, like, but just something like, I don't know this, or I am unknowledge in this, like seeking out further understanding, or I don't know.
Know what you don't know. Isn't that how it's kind of
Something like that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Carrie. I think that's important because I think it's also, to me, it rings also a little bit of acknowledging that my experience isn't the only experience.
Yeah, something like that.
Isn't that to understand and value multiple perspectives?
I don't know.
It's a little more than that.
It's a little more than that.
Acknowledging that your disposition is that you, yeah, openness to.
Yeah. For me, I think the one that strikes me is like exhibit cultural competence when cultural competence is the title. I don't know that that is a useful, I don't know, like, what does that mean to exhibit cultural competence, right? It seems to me that the things in here should tell me how to exhibit cultural competence. So I don't know that exhibiting cultural competence is.
I also don't know if this would be like included in one of these, but I think it could be in the cultural competence one or something else like that. I guess it's kind of included, but almost like understanding that people's different home lives. I don't know if that would be something worth including in here, because I feel like at least a lot of like, I've found that students, it's a lot easier to be like, oh, you have a different culture than I do, but being like, oh, we have the same culture, but we have different ways of showing it, or like we come from different backgrounds, we have different home lives, we have different circumstances. I don't know if that would fit or if it's already included, but being like, I guess it's the same idea, like not everybody's the same as me, and
I wonder if it's understand and value multiple perspectives and experiences.
Yes.
Right, because I think we're talking about different experiences, not just perspectives, right?
Yeah.
I would also build relationships with people from other cultures and backgrounds, also include communities to be more inclusive to all marginalized groups as well that are included in
that's good too.
I love that word.
People from other
Community.
cultures, backgrounds, and communities.
That may be possibly labeling the column cultural competences and maybe like expanding worldviews or something that maybe if you broaden the title of the category, you might be able to broaden the wording so you include more.
Well, part of what we're looking at is we want people to be able to say what it is, right? So we actually
Yeah.
talked about aligning the words at the top and trying to make it one word.
That makes
And not
sense too.
trying to expand it too much in the titles, right?
I just would worry it would be, no, that makes sense. I just also worry it would be repetitive if then you put somewhere else like,
Right.
because it's like cultural, like being okay with all kind of cultures versus being okay with all kind of sexualities or
Right.
identifications that like some of them, I don't know. If it would,
Well, because it's also identities,
It is.
Yeah.
right?
I think that's what, yeah, I think that's what you're getting at, right? It's-
Well, you're saying community, but yeah, but identities too
Mhm.
is. And do you think socioeconomic is reflected in that?
In identities or.
Well, I'm just saying,
In these
because we
statements.
have that in our equity, we have that, right? I think that's a huge, and that also gets to experiences, right? But I don't know, do you,
I think socioeconomic, I feel, is more included in experiences and backgrounds.
okay,
But things like identities, and especially for the queer community,
Sure.
that isn't necessarily a background.
Right.
so we should have identities
Identity.
So
in there as,
identities or
Yeah.
communities or,
or communities.
Yeah.
They're interchangeable.
For me, like engage civically, I didn't know where to put it. Yeah, that's what I thought. I wanted to put it in character too, but then I was like, is that judgy of me? I don't know. I don't know why I struggled with, because I thought it would be in character too, but for some reason I was,
The bottom one, have and communicate a positive attitude, I don't think needs to be.
no,
I
I think
don't
that's a little
either.
too specific.
And I don't think, I mean, perseverance and exercise agency, take that out too.
Yeah.
I think some of these are a little bit redundant,
Yeah.
I think, because we also have demonstrate confidence and resilience.
Yeah.
Which I
that's
think if you're
definitely
practicing
redundant.
perseverance and exercising agency, that,
And is growth mindset character? I think we do have two, it's kind of like, character is, yes,
Actually-
responsible, integrity, trustworthy.
I think that's more under
Respectful.
independent learning. I think a growth mindset,
And where do you see growth mindset?
under character, sorry,
Under
we jumped over to
Guess I
character.
missed it.
Foster growth mindset. I mean, last, third from the bottom.
You just,
Oh, there it
I
is.
think-
Okay, sorry, I didn't see it.
I think either take it out, or I think it would belong under creative and independent learning.
I feel like the last one on 5 and the second to last one on, sorry, no, where'd it go? Down there. Third one on 6 are similar yet different, but I don't feel like the last one on 5 really fits within independent
Agreed.
learning and like emotional well-being.
Agree.
That, I think they're similar enough that you could combine them into one for character.
Was that emotional intelligence, that was what I'm saying?
Yeah, and comparison to develop and sustain mental and physical health and wellness.
So you're thinking of combining those somehow and putting them both character?
Character,
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
I think emotional intelligence and self-awareness is important to keep, and I think 2 below, exhibit empathy and compassion for others. I think there's a little redundance there. I would suggest getting rid of the empathy and compassion for others and talk about keep emotional intelligence and self-aworness.
Ooh, no, I
No?
think exhibit empathy, I think we don't. We talked about that in our workshop about there's a lack of caring for others and a lack of thinking outside oneself.
And actually, what reminds me, and it was before Karen was on the board, it was some of the events last spring. We started talking more and more about empathy and wanting it to be
Yeah.
and respect, wanting it to be more of a focus this year.
Well, unless you think it's somewhere else, I think
Yeah,
those
I'm
are
wondering-
two huge things that the district needs to work on.
my 2 cents in. Foster a
Yeah.
growth mindset. I agree that character may not be the best place. I think creative and independent learning might be the best place. I see some redundancy in there, but personally, just educationally, I think fostering a growth mindset captures so much of what we're trying to model for our children, and it brings some brevity and some alignment to it. So that's my 2 cents.
For me, I feel like take risks, tolerate ambiguity, learn from mistakes, and display, is it kind of a definition of growth mindset? It's kind of a description of a growth mindset. I feel like those two are very similar. So that's number 3 under number 5. Was that not confusing?
So
The third
I like
blurb
the
under-
foster growth mindset and keep it short rather
Yeah.
than have the longer one.
When I take explore and evaluate the world through technology and digital media out.
Yeah, I don't know why that's in there.
We don't have books in there, we don't have all the other ways.
I know, it's like.
Too
yeah,
specific?
Yeah,
You've already done it.
yeah, and here we're trying to get less screen time, but.
So doesn't foster a growth mindset also negate the need for demonstrate creativity, curiosity, imagination? And doesn't growth mindset capture that as well?
I don't know if it captures creativity necessarily. But I think you're right. I think the tenacity, I think that is part of a growth mindset.
And sense of humor doesn't necessarily fall under.
No. And that's so subjective.
Right, perfect.
Right.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure it out. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not wild about that one.
I feel like the last one in number 6 is kind of conveyed throughout the collaboration column, if that wasn't already said.
Yeah, I agree with you, yeah.
I think we've taken out the last 3 on 6.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Or did we move foster
moved foster
growth
to
and creative?
And so we swapped it out for take risks.
Yeah.
We moved, we took take risks out. That's what I understood.
My pen is not writing.
I know, yeah, I'm trying to. And we moved engage civically over to character, right?
Yeah.
So I'm being really I also think understand the difference between equity and equality
Yeah, notice
is a
that
little
one, too.
specific too. It's like, I don't know. To me, that's like acquisition level. I don't know
Yeah,
that that's
I agree with you.
at the level
I
of,
think if you do the other things.
Right.
it's that,
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
So that
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
I think the wording on the first one in number 4, communication, is just kind of funky.
It's not communicated effectively.
Which one?
In multiple modalities.
I think that's the first thing you read
Oh,
on
yeah.
that column, and it
it's
just.
You really don't want to read further, do you?
I also think that's sort of conveyed in the collaboration, because it's talking about collaborative learning, and I think
Yeah.
that's sort of what the entire first column was about.
yeah, I think what they, if I'm reading that, it's, communicate more than just, in writing, in speaking,
Is that
Body language.
sort of also incorporated a bit with communicate ideas through the creation of authentic products?
Yeah,
So
that's,
those
Yeah.
two would be-
I think those are a little redundant.
I mean, I think communicate effectively is always a good goal.
And I like, but in multiple modalities, that is true, maybe that there's just a different way to,
Say, yeah.
using different platforms or.
But I also wonder if you could just say effectively communicate ideas through the creation of authentic products.
In multiple modalities.
Using a bunch of stuff. I think if we have, yeah.
Doesn't necessarily have to be a creation of an authentic product.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I think even though in the first one, if you just said communicate through multiple modalities to support learning, and you got rid of just the collaborative learning, considering you already have a column on that, you don't need to just, I think even if you just cut a couple words out, it'll just make it easier to
Yeah.
I think I would
I'd
just
love
say
to see,
communicate effectively.
yeah, but I would love to see communication start with listen.
Yeah.
So I would move listen intently up to the top of communication.
category, right?
That's a really good point.
As we've talked about.
That is a really good point.
So I would start with listen intently to decipher meaning. I would have engage in discussion and dialogue. Field questions to demonstrate understanding is the second one. And then get to the actual, communicating the ideas, right? Because you can't, if you don't listen, and you don't engage in discussion, you actually can't communicate effectively.
Okay, but what I wanted to say, did you say something? Sorry. I completely agree. So you're saying put the listen on top, and then what's the second one?
Engage in discussion and dialogue. And then somehow combine those other.
Well, I think the deliver effective oral presentations, we've already said to communicate effectively using multiple, in multiple modalities or in multiple media.
Well, I think communicate ideas through the creation of authentic products. I think deliver effective oral presentations to communicate results of inquiry could be a subset of communicate ideas through the creation of an authentic product. Right? That seems very specific to me.
It sounds like you're talking about somebody
just
at
as a
work.
result of
You have to
inquiry.
do a presentation. It just sounds very strange, yeah. And to communicate the results of inquiry sounds even stranger. So, I'm not thrilled with that one. Sorry,
Like, you
whoever
can
wrote
read
it.
this and see like all the different departments.
Yeah, you kind of get a flash of what
all the
department
different
wrote each one.
like it's gotta say
Yeah.
inquiry. Yeah. Like,
Well, I think we've taken a crack at every category. Do we want to
Do you want me to
make those revisions?
Sure.
And bring that back so that we're kind of winnowing it down?
Yeah, this is good.
You
This
don't
is
think
really
this is
helpful.
just-
And keep the draft.
Yeah.
I mean, right, so this is our.
You want me to redline it or
Yeah, I don't think you have to read, I think we
just do a new draft?
Right, because it's chunks.
Yep.
And that might help us.
Okay.
And then did we want to look at the mission statement to see if there's anything?
Yeah, I think after it's been sort of sitting in your brains for a little while, is there anything?
This is not important, but if you are printing this, the left blue is kind of hard to read.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm just imagining on the computer screen being even harder to read, so that color might want to be changed. It's hard to read.
It is hard to read. I agree.
The far left one?
Yeah.
See, I'm colorblind, so it's really easy, right?
That's what
I mean, it's kind of funny. Was it? Okay.
Well,
I'll take your word for
it's
it.
not enough contrast between the
Okay.
two colors,
It
I
is
think,
just
is what
funny how
happens.
I see different things.
Yeah. And this paper is shiny, so it's making it hard.
Okay. So now we're reading the mission statement. Okay. Yeah, I really like it. Thank you for writing this. It saved us hours with little dots on the board and all that stuff.
Well, and the ask.
Yeah.
So one thing I've noticed is that it changes grammatically from racially, socioeconomically, LGBTQ.
Those are just criteria, that's not the mission.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Sorry. The mission statement is just this down
Here.
It's a sentence.
That's it. Sorry, yeah, those were just our own criteria we were using. Thank you. Yeah, sorry. That would be a long mission statement.
Yes.
So some of the things as we drafted the mission statement, we talked about this is a diverse world, a changing world students are going into. We also talked about, as I said earlier, some of us talked about the caring and compassion that we think students need, the district needs to focus on. But then there was also concern, students, I'm going to ask you whether you think it's reflected, about also maintaining the fact of academic rigor, right? So we didn't want to make it seem as if, it's all about the soft skills and nothing about academics. Do you think that, because, I mean, academic rigor is part of the TAM offering. So do you feel that's adequately reflected in the mission statement?
Yes. I think critical thinking
Yeah.
embodies that.
Is it?
Okay,
That's
that's
good
what
to
I
hear.
thought too.
And what do you think?
Yeah, I just think critical thinking, it's kind of an odd wording, so I was trying to play with different words in my head.
Uh-huh.
So I was throwing intelligent in there, and I don't think that's the right word, but I just don't know if you could play with like some sort of like smart, or I guess you already have, I was thinking like educated students, but that's already in there, but like some sort of word that you think of learning, because even though critical thinking, it does hit academics, because it doesn't like, my association isn't, like, if it goes to science class, like 4th grade science is where my head goes when I hear critical thinking.
Yeah, it's one of those words that we started out, yeah.
But I don't know if there's a better word. It definitely
What's
conveys
something
it.
like well-informed? Or something that, like,
We thought that critical thinking reflected the rigor, and then looking at the one in the profile, right?
Yeah.
Because of all the elements that go into critical thinking.
Yeah. Or knowledgeable. I don't know. There's no perfect word.
We continue to think
Yeah, we can continue to think about it. That's what's helpful.
I think it's the difference is that there are some words that more reflect the knowledge students have acquired in school, and then there are values and attributes that students have become through their education. And I think right now it reflects sort of more the people that students become, but not necessarily just the hard knowledge that they've gained. And I'm not sure if you want to reflect just also the knowledge that they've gained.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Is there a reason you guys chose community members over citizens? I just wondering.
Yeah, we had a pretty, a lot of discussion about it.
I believe that citizen has become a little bit of a charged word. Yeah, and may feel exclusionary to some people.
It's long. I was like, wait, there's a reason.
Right.
There's a reason behind this.
There is.
And we also wanted to emphasize that communities are different. A community, that we're here, a community might be your family, it might be your soccer team, you know.
Well, this is sure an improvement.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's always the, sort of to Maddie's point, makes it longer, but, you know, educated students should be caring, collaborative, knowledgeable, critical thinking community members.
Mm-hmm.
Not a very strong word,
But it does hit to school more.
Yeah,
That-
yeah.
I don't know why, I feel like you could almost replace this, and it could also be for a summer camp or something. In a good way, but it's like you're still learning life skills, you're just kind of hitting the books.
No, I did, because the critical, I mean, we talked a lot about what critical thinking entails. It's not 4th grade science, right?
Oh, it's
Critical
not. It's
thinking is
just
actually the highest form of learning.
Yeah.
And then the obligation on our community our students, that you will work to improve a diverse and dynamic society. So that the expectation continues as you go forward.
I know what you're saying, though. When I first heard critical thinking, not being an educator, I can't remember how many years ago, and I've heard it a lot, and I almost got kind of tired of hearing that word. So I know what you're saying, and then now that I'm with these people, I've gained a new understanding of it that's a little bit different. So I know what you're saying.
I think it works in context, knowing what it means and
Yeah.
hearing it. I just think it's a word that's overused, so I think that people don't know the true meaning, so they might assume the false meaning, because you're assuming that.
And what was the other one, 21st century?
21st
But that's why we have our, that's why it's a separate, it's a separate branch of the graduate profile. So we're
I used to hate that too, and I was so, anyway, so I know what you're saying. And Lauren, you
I
have
was just
something?
gonna say, I think my issue with the critical thinking is when I hear that, it sort of makes me stop, because I think of critical thinking as the noun and not the adjective. So it's sort of listing adjectives, sort of attributes of
Oh,
something.
oh,
And then I sort of
yeah.
hear critical thinking and I don't know, it like feels a little out of place. So I think that's, that's
I agree with
yeah.
that.
How about critical thinkers who will work to improve, get rid of community members?
I think that's better, but I think the community members part is important.
Okay.
I think there's an implication of being a community member, a contributor.
And I do like adding knowledgeable in there.
It'll make it that much longer. It's not like it, as long as it doesn't indent another line, you're fine. They've already indented, so.
Yeah,
I do like that. I do, the more I think about it, I do like adding that word.
And I think the fact that it is simple and plain is fine. I think it encompasses a lot because knowledgeable doesn't just mean education, or doesn't just mean history or a math problem. I think it means knowledge of other cultures or other experiences.
It encompasses a lot.
It does, it encompasses a lot of this too, I think.
Yeah, so I like that.
Your knowledge of caring for yourself or taking like a life skills.
Yeah. There's a certain responsibility with it. I like that.
Wise. 18-year-olds.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, how about TAM Union High School is committed to educating students who are critical thinkers and are caring, collaborative, knowledgeable community members who will work to improve the diversity of society.
That feels very run-on. What if we were to hyphenate?
Well, it's going to be a whole run-on.
Hyphenate?
If we were to hyphenate critical hyphen thinking, doesn't that emphasize the fact that it's an adjective versus
Or
a?
caring, collaborative, critically thinking. Critically thinking.
All right, well, let's continue to play with this and come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Getting
We can come
closer
back,
every
we can bring
time.
back iterations of
We
it
have
next time.
elements in there,
Yeah.
and now it's a matter of making it.
Ooh, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good. Thank you.
Right.
It was very good. Thank you very, very much. It was fun. It's the most fun I've had on a mission statement, is for sure. Superintendent's report.
I don't have a official report tonight. I would like to send my heartfelt support and compassion out to the Drake community. And I want to, I'm always, unfortunately, we have more than one of these happen. And the resilience and the compassion that the students show to each other, the professionalism and the care that the staff provide is touching. So I'm really grateful for that. And also to the TAM High community, again, the professionalism and compassion on the part of the staff in the lockdown yesterday, the incredible, wherewithal of the students who were calm and, again, compassionate with one another and really gracious throughout a very, very difficult process. So I just want to say thank you to those communities and that I'm grateful and my heart is with both of those communities right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Tara. Trustee reports.
Last night, we had an LCAP committee meeting, and Dan and I are the trustees who attend. And the agenda was altered so thoughtfully by Tara last night because of all that the community had experienced yesterday and over the weekend. And so rather than talking about one goal, Tara switched it to talk about wellness and taking care of our students, both proactively as well as reactively in the event of situations such as the loss of our student at Drake. And I want to echo what Tara said, because yesterday was such a long day for so many people in this community. And Tara and Wes Cedros were at that meeting last night, and I can't thank you enough for the grace and professionalism and kindness that you showed to the community and to this committee, and having the kinds of conversations that we did. It was a really great meeting last night. We're moving along.
Anything to report? No?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm very sorry about this. We are a group that's going to go to Washington, D.C. And in my mind, that was going to be after 7:30, but I'm wondering if we missed that discussion.
There was no discussion.
It was on consent, so there was no discussion. Yes.
But you're welcome to
Sorry.
stay.
Thanks for being here.
No. No, we're good. Thank you. Have a very good trip. Yeah. 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 No, have a good trip. Yeah. Thanks.
So I had the opportunity to go to the Drake open house, and it was a different energy than in prior years. It seemed not as well attended. I don't know, or people were spread out more. They weren't concentrated in SLC classrooms. And spoke with some teachers, some of whom are understandably, working towards change and wondering what it will be. Also, I had a chance to participate in a mindfulness workshop by Ms. Hotchkiss. And it was interesting. She took us through the mindfulness work that she does, and it's not a separate class. She runs a study group, I guess, with teachers, and they do some things with her. I don't know if it's on staff when it is, but then they take the practices back to the classroom. And so, there were quite a few parents there. So it's always fun to go and see the classrooms.
Very good. I think what I can report out is that the Parcel Tax Committee is moving along. Jennifer Ginsburg has kindly offered to be the chair, and it's been very rewarding to see how quickly people have mobilized. I think, Karen, you were spot on that we needed to wait till right after the holidays. People were not going to be able to focus until after that, and boy, have they. So I'm encouraged by that, and I will, on your personal email and from my personal email, not district email, I'll be forwarding you all the link to the website so you can get on and see where you might want to volunteer. And it's going to be a busy, I think it's 5 more weeks. I have to check. I think it's 5 weeks now. So anything you can do would be greatly appreciated. And it actually will be a lot of fun. It's been like the rest of you, it's been quite the week, and I'm feeling very grateful. And I do have to, one thing I do want to mention is that maybe it's because it's front and center sometimes with some of the discussion I hear, is that how underappreciated I think administration is at schools. I mean, I think this week, we just look at what's happened this week, and where would we be if we didn't have competent, caring administrators. And it's starting to become it's just so evident, and I get a little frustrated sometimes when I talk to people that have seemed to downgrade the importance. You don't hear people downgrading the importance of a CEO of a company or the president of a company, but somehow when you get to schools, we don't need leadership. And same kind of attitude that sometimes you'll hear from people, that an attitude that everyone can teach, because I went to school so I can teach. And I have to tell you, sitting between these two and these agenda planning meetings, it's like bing, bing, bing. And I'm always like, 3 sentences behind them trying to catch up as they start down the path. So thank you, and thank you, even though you don't work for the district, and thank all of you. And what I really, really love about this district is that and this sounds incredibly corny, but I've been able to witness, I always say this, God's work. I get to witness amazing work and amazing hearts. It's very rewarding, and knowing that everything that is done is for the best interest of the children and students. So thank you.
So you're on. Oh, you want to say something? Sure.
It didn't really seem to fit with the school reports, but I guess it's for student interests, not one of these. And I keep it.
You can hold it anyway.
I keep doing it. there was a button waiting for it to work.
It might, out of the
Maybe,
blue, so
just
yeah.
eventually, if it's enough. Maddie, Charlotte, and I all went with JLAC to Sacramento. So we got to sit front and center
Great.
during meetings, and it was, yeah, just didn't make sense to say that
I always
earlier.
wanted to go, so
What
what
do you
was it
think?
like? Yeah.
It was all of our second year, or third year, all of our second year, so I felt less overwhelmed because last year it was just knowledge that I didn't comprehend. But I don't know, I thought it was interesting talking to members of the other boards. I talked a lot to the Mill Valley School District Board, or member coming from there. I was trying to find someone from Sausalito or Warren City, but I did not, but other issues. But I thought it interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, like a lot of the issues that have been our problems with our school districts, with the state in the past 3 years, while they still persist, people were definitely talking about the incredible job our lobbyists have been able to do and the progress that has been made and continues to be made, I think. It is worth noting.
I would say all the other board members kind of definitely were nice. They took us under our wings. All the three of us were like, wow, this is the most freedom we've ever gotten on the field trips.
Okay, that's enough, thank
Well,
you.
no, just talking with being just like an adult, just talking. There was no holding hands, which was nice.
You weren't attached by a
No,
rope.
we weren't attached. There was no 1, 2, 3.
Where's your partner?
So it was just talking and being like, wow, we're representing a full school district. It felt very adult-like, which was fun.
It's too bad we all have these day jobs that get in the way of getting up there.
days.
One of these times I don't have much longer on the board, so I really got to try to get up
Foreclose
there.
yourself the opportunity to run again.
So would you like to finish with the board
Oh, yeah.
members?
I thought during that conversation over the grad profile, everyone was very talking collaboratively and piggybacking off of each other. I feel like it could have been in a Socratic seminar using the language to piggyback off of what so-and-so said. So I think that was good. Although I say we might have been a little repetitive. That would be the only negative. But I think when you're talking about something that's repetitive, it's hard not to be repetitive. So.
That's a good point.
Tried.
Yeah.
That's good. No, thank you. No, I thought it was a good meeting, and I enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to planning our get-together. We won't do it during a finals period for sure, so that'll be great. So I think meeting is adjourned. Thank you.